to go back to seeing my therapist and psychologist before I could even get fucking meds because the meds I was taking before, he said they might not work now because now I might have new things to do.
Holy moly.
I feel like, yeah, maybe for
what
a couple
if you didn't
of years
take any meds and we figured it out without medication? Maybe not for you, but for me, I've been figuring it out without medication. I think I'm pretty fine. Fucking loud, bro.
Just tell me when y'all are done eating, okay? Do you like the dry food more than the wet food, or is your big back sister taking it all? You know what? You're too fat. Behavior, let's go.
She's sick, so let her eat. You, I already fed you multiple times. You're stepping on the water. You eat the wet food, and no food for you until she's home.
No food.
She needs it more than you do, okay? You guys are the same age, but you look like her mother. Stop it. It's because I overfeed her because she's my cat. You gotta understand that. Yeah, you know they offered me to keep her, but I said no.
No, you can't. Yeah.
I can.
Well,
it's not why I said no. This is a cat I've already bonded with. This is a cat.
Don't happy birthday and send me $100.
She's about to get her you know what removed since she never has babies, and I've already bonded with her because she has a sister. I don't want to separate them. Every time I'm sad, she looks at me like this and puts her paw on me.
Oh, yeah.
She always sleeps on my neck. As much as I love her, I can't separate her from her sister.
Oh my god, there's so much fucking traffic. Holy shit.
You want to go, ready? You can't. Sorry. No. Okay. We will eat after she's done.
Their chicken food comes in today, so I'll feed them with the chicken food, and we'll see what they do.
Yeah.
Says the chicken's supposed to take the food and run away and eat it. Well, the ducks will go crazy about it, so we'll see. Ducks like bugs, too.
You like those chickens a lot, I guess, Priesty, huh?
Well, no, someone's gotta take care of them, bro. Mom just leaves them there and doesn't do shit.
Yeah, but you were dreaming of it.
I was not dreaming about it.
Then who are you? Why were you dreaming about chicken butt? I have a clear audio of you saying chicken butt.
I didn't say chicken butt. I said chickens, but...
No, you said... Shut up.
I was like talking about chickens.
No, listen, it would make sense if you said chicken. But no, what you said is chicken butt.
That's chicken butt.
No, you said chicken butt.
No, because it wasn't chicken butt. It was talking about shit. You do have to look at their butts though to make sure there's no poop on there.
Okay, let's go clean you.
You guys go check them for me. They can't have poop on their butts. No AC. We need to save some energy here. Okay. Holy electric car, the fucking gonna trend it down as that. Aggressive energy is consuming more energy. Yeah, sure. When I cut out my data, by the way, you don't have to call me back. You'll be sleeping. So, because I don't know when my data's gonna cut out of here, but shit, I didn't bring my computer with me. Fuck.
She's on the phone right now. You know what? This is calming her. Keep talking. And we'll clean her. Oh no, what's wrong with her eyes? Do we have eye booger? Should mommy clean the eye booger? You're doing such a good job. It's scary. Shh.
Hope I don't need my computer. I was the computer. Where
Do you know how high the fall that would have been for you? When you would have got hurt and you're already in such a good position. You did such a good job. That's all. Get your head out of there. That's milk. Let's go to bed, come on. Let's go.
They need to sleep regular schedule, go to bed at night, wake up in the daytime.
That's not how cats work. I wish you knew that. You know, I used to think I was a cat until I found out I was a dog. Because I like to sleep.
Yeah, but you stay up too late.
No, guess what?
What?
Guess what? I will fall asleep for like 2 hours, then I'll wake up.
You need to take melatonin.
I wake up. No, I don't take meds. I do that, and then I'll stay up for a couple more hours. I nap.
Melatonin will not keep you up. Don't be telling me that.
I didn't say melatonin will not keep me. I said don't take melatonin. I'm scared of melatonin.
Why?
I used to take a drug called quetiapine, and people sell it as a street drug because it will give you crazy hallucinations. It's meant for
melatonin doesn't
people
give you hallucinations.
Like, quetiapine.
I know, but melatonin doesn't.
Quetiapine is an antipsychotic. And it used to make me fall asleep until I wouldn't fall asleep on it. And what it does is if you don't fall asleep, it will give you hallucinations, so you have to be put to sleep, right? And that scared the fuck out of me, and I had to get off of it. But my body was like used to being knocked out by a drug, so I had to take melatonin. I took melatonin for 2 years, and then I ended up having like a psychotic episode one night, and my body associated it with the melatonin. So I've been scared to take melatonin ever since. You know? Because melatonin can give you freaky dreams. So when it gave me the freaky dreams, I ended up going into a psychotic attack. I couldn't differentiate the dream between what was real. Anyways, I don't want to take any sleep aids. I don't want to take any meds either. Like, I've been going cold for a few years. Get off your sister right now. No. You bit her? Are you serious? Did you know how mom cats hold the cat by the neck?
Yeah.
If you're very careful, like we are, you can actually find it. It's a thick piece of skin at the top of their nape, and if you're able to hold that, like you're driving, so you can't walk with her in mind. But I do it whenever she's bad, and they basically get paralyzed. And I do that when she's bad, so she listens. But she just bit her sister, so I bit her. Because she bit her sister. Like, oh, she doesn't do shit like that regularly. She just does it to act out. What the fuck is that? Are you a boy cat? I'm actually gonna tweak out. Maybe I haven't slept mad. She's supposed to be a girl cat. Maybe she's
a boy cat.
She's She's never had this before. It just came out of nowhere. Is that a fucking pee-pee? Jesus fucking Christ. I'm not hallucinating right now, am I? Is that why you were on top of your sister and you bit her? Are you... What? Oh, my God. Is that why you were on top of her? You're a boy. But you have a coochie too. What are you? Okay, I'm gonna take a picture and you need to go to the vet, like dead ass. Stop it. No, you're a boy. You're a fucking boy. No, this is actually not funny. I can't wake anybody up for this. Oh my God. I can't wake anybody up for this. You're a boy. I have to keep you away from your sister. It just went down. It was up before you were. What the fuck? It's retracting.
You guys are stupid. How would you not know?
I just experienced the nastiest thing ever.
How would you guys not know?
Because she also has a coochie. And this has never happened until now. I don't think you understand what happened. Do you know what just happened? It went back to nothing. There used to be nothing there. A pee-pee just like came out of there. Now it's gone. See? It's gone. She was whatever she is, she just had a boner. And now it's smaller. It's gone now. She also has a coochie too. What the fuck? Is she intersex? It's gone. But is that why you were on top of your sister? That's why you were on top of her. And then you bit her. And that's why she was crying. I don't know what you are. Why am I even saying this to a cat? I'm sorry. I love you. But we have to go to the vet tomorrow. Wake up, there are two girls. She would have got pregnant. We would have never knew why. How is that even possible, Gracie? How is that possible? And this is my first time seeing a cat pee-pee. Say something, I'm actually going crazy.
Bruh, it's probably... I don't know how you guys didn't realize you had a male and female cat.
Because she has a coochie and a butthole.
Are you sure?
Okay. Yes, we are 100% sure. We also... There's like a weird part to her that we thought like maybe it's something odd. But it's hard to see. But right now you want to know what happened? She just had a boner.
You just told me what happened. We're still talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I'm so sleepy, but I watched it like retract back and become that weird thing that we thought like it's weird. I'm not explaining it, but like I'll just go to the goddamn vet tomorrow. I don't know. Why was this low-key traumatizing for me? Now I might just be really tired. Like I feel like I'm hallucinating the whole thing.
Just go to bed.
I love you.
You need to go to bed at a reasonable time. You're up too late.
I stayed up so I could wake you up.
I know, this time is an exception, but you're up too late.
I have a hard time sleeping at night.
You gotta get medication to fix that.
I'm not going back on sleep meds.
Then don't go back on sleep meds, but then lay down in a dark, quiet room with no distractions. And don't get up. Just lay down.
Yeah, that'll work. Mm-hmm. That totally won't.
When you're with me, you slept the whole time.
No, I didn't. I got up multiple times. No, I didn't. I got up multiple times and I went to the bathroom and I panicked. I did that in Florida too. I get up every few minutes.
You gotta fix it. You gotta be able to stay in bed.
I can't. I wake up every few minutes. I wake up every few minutes because I feel like I'm gonna die.
You're not gonna die though.
I know, but that's what my body
See a doctor about it, get it fixed.
When I see a doctor about it, I have to take meds. I don't want to take those kind of meds again.
Then just say I don't want those. Take a different one.
No, if I go to the doctors.
See, this is why I fucking hate Canada, because you can't fucking. If I go to a doctor and I say no, listen. If I go to a doctor and I say I can't sleep, I need medication, they're like, take this, and I'm like, I don't want that. It gives me trauma, or it gives me like hallucinations. I want a different one, and then he thinks of a different one. You fucking Canada, you're not allowed to say anything because then they're gonna make you take medicine. Just say, I don't want that medicine. Okay, then just don't see the doctor in Canada. Then you have to deal with it till you get here because it's fucking fucking dumbest shit ever that you can't talk to your doctor in Canada without being forced to take something.
That's not what it is.
Yes, it is, because just tell the doctor I don't want that. Just say I don't want that.
Worldwide.
No, worldwide, bro. If I go to my doctor and I say I'm issue sleeping, I need medication.
Okay, what your my symptoms aren't only issue sleeping. If you tell your doctor you have issue sleeping, of course he'll think you're normal and just do sleep meds. My issues are I can't sleep because I wake up because this and this happens. I also have sleep paralysis, yada yada yada. They want to evaluate more. And as someone who has a track record of being on antipsychotics and meds for depression and shit, they will make sure I take my meds because they will think I'm a threat to myself and then I'm a threat to the society. That's how it works everywhere. So why do you think I'm scared to go to the doctor? Because I've been functioning without meds, and if I tell them I'm not okay again after therapy, after a psychologist sees me to see if I'm fit to be okay, if they think I'm not, they will force me to take meds.
I don't think so.
Yes, they will. That's happened to me before. I was forced to take them. They were like, okay, you're not yourself off these meds. But I'm like, I'm okay. Like,
they're not gonna force you to go and make sure you're taking them.
first of all,
how are they gonna force you to take medicine?
Okay, let's say my doctor thinks let's just say, okay, let's say your doctor thinks you're bipolar or you're schizophrenic and that you are harm to yourself, you will have to take medication. It's the same thing with my brother right now. When I got the call for the interview, his pharmacist came by and he told them, you and me are friends, like they are friends. He's just like, just take your meds and everything will be okay. And everything was okay. But he was also there because sometimes when he doesn't listen, the cops come and he's taken to the hospital and he's forced to take his meds. So I don't know how to explain it, but there's a medical.
I'll just go to the doctor with you. I'll go to the doctor with you. It's not, just say I have issue.
There's more to this.
I have issue sleeping and I can't take these medications.
Okay, Brace.
Because you're acting like they're gonna force you to take medicine. You're not allowed. Then you just have to not.
Fine, just leave it. It's fine. I'm gonna go.
You have freedom of choice. You can just say no.
Yeah.
It's not like you belong in a hospital. You can just say no.
Raising my issue.
Then you're gonna have to try all these different things. You're gonna have to keep trying something to get it to work. I'll get you a bottle of something that I was gonna try.
No, I don't want it. I have a fear.
Have melatonin with magnesium.
No, I
Why?
don't.
Why? Why?
What?
Why?
Why what?
Why not?
Why no melatonin?
Yeah.
Just like I reacted to that one time your grandpa was smoking weed with it, and I will have the same reaction to melatonin. And what will be worse is that it will be in my body. I will freak out.
You'll have the same reaction. So you're saying, but your body makes melatonin.
Because I had like a traumatized.
Then just pretend like it's not melatonin. I think you're gonna cut out because there's no fucking dick here. Remember, we're in shitty Vermont, with no data. Yeah. I don't understand why you can't fucking just take melatonin. not going to obviously be able to use it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I use it so I can glitch out the premium data, because the premium data does work if I'm on Wi-Fi. So if I connect Starlink to the car, it should be able to glitch out premium data so I can actually use it. So see, like that.
Explicitly, but
Look at
this
that.
fix is
We're
likely
using
in response
fucking
to a recent report involving the FBI. 404 Media reported a couple weeks ago that the FBI successfully retrieved signal
Fuck! We lost all of our fucking data. We were so close. Damn it.
signal notifications from a defendant's iPhone, even after the notifications and the Signal app had been deleted. This...
Damn it. So I can't close the thing, but I like to have the visual, so I might have to just fucking do a 9 to 5 Mac on my phone, but there's no data, so. I don't think I have it downloaded. Should actually plug the phone in. When I get to the store, I'm gonna download the episode for the way home. But so far, we only had one disengagement, and that was mostly because I'm not going to be a dick to hog the road. So technically, well, that disengagement, yeah, it was needed. It always in that one spot gets confused, because apparently on the maps it's considered a single lane, but it's actually a double lane. Also, want to hear about my crazy fucking... that squeaking's gonna really piss me off so bad. I get it fixed when I fucking stop, pull aside. But okay, so my crazy thing that happened was... Oh, are you gonna work? Yes, you have data. No. Come back. The crazy thing that happened. So I needed tires, right? Tires are around... You're gonna be shocked when I say this, but they're like $170 to $200 to put tires on rims on the car. So not for the tires themselves, but just to put tires on rims on the car. About $170 to $200. That's completely bullshit. Fuck no. So I call up a shop, another shop, because that shop's recording 170. So I'm like, fuck no. They're like 170 plus. One shop was trying to tell me it's $30 a tire plus $35 to put it on. And I was like, what the fuck? And I'm like, nah. So what I'm doing is call them up, and they're like, we'll do $35 a tire. No. Yeah. I think it was like, we'll do we'll do $39 a tire. So I'm like, okay, blah, 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 interesting. And then I got another place to do $35 a tire, because I price matched. I'm like, they're offering me this, can you do this? And they're like, no, we can't do it. Can't do it. I'm like, okay. But we do $35. I'm like, okay. And then another place like, no, I can't do it. Can't do it till $30. And then the last place I called was like, hey, I really don't want to. I have my tires done. Usually I'm paying $100, but this year they want 120. That's pretty high for me. I don't like paying that much, and I want to get it done cheaper and also faster than what they're offering me. And the guy's like, okay, well, they are a new company now because someone bought them out, so it's not $100 a tire anymore. It makes sense, but 120, even that, like, that's significantly cheaper as well. I think they're trying to charge me like $40, $45 for a tire or something like that. And then I get him all that down, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to find a place, man. And it's like, he's thinking, I hear him like in his voice. He's like doing the mental math. He's like quickly thinking, like, 113. I'm like, huh? And he's like, yep. Sunday, 113. I'll do it. I'll undercut him for you. I'm like, all right, perfect. 113 a tire. I'm like, yeah, perfect. So. Cheapest I get is 113, not per tire, sorry, 113 for all four. I'm still kind of sleepy. 113 for all four, which is hella expensive because last year was 100, and that's $13 more. So it's $113 to put all the tires on. Because the issue is, I can do it myself. Like, I have crowbars and shit, so I can like put the tires on the rims. You know, I should be able to do it without scratching them. That's not the issue. I just need them balanced with the spinning thing. They charge the same price to balance them, which pisses me off, because it's like, if I put the tires on the rim and all you do is balance them, why do you charge so fucking much? Or at best they give me like a $5 discount, and it's like, come on, man. And they're like, well, it's easier to get an all-in-one. I'm like, yeah, but man, you fucking, so whatever. These are brand new rims though, so I'm gonna take pictures of them before I go in, and if they get scratched or something, I'll get my money. Well, some of my money back. This weekend's back. Something in there this weekend. But I'll do my research on if they scratch the rims, but I just get them down. Also, I have to record their calls too, because there's a chance, which I hate to say this, but I get to these places sometimes, and it's kind of happened before. They're like, hey, well, you know, that's not what he might have misspoke, or we can't do that. And it's like, well, on the phone, we agreed on the pricing 3 times. We agreed, and then I said, okay, this time, and then I said, all right, confirming this time, this price. All right, yep, and then, so I hate having to record. They don't know I'm recording. You click the record button, and then it goes through their bullshit of, hey, we're gonna record this call, and it's like, okay, I'm already recording the call. And then by the time they actually pick up the phone, it's already recording. So, and most people are good, but if a shop does bullshit with me, I leave my bad review and just kind of post in the review. They don't honor prices. They say online. So like, if I call them up and they don't, and they say we'll give you $100, and they try to do like 150, then I'll just say straight up lied to me. So, also it's illegal. I'm pretty sure you can't make someone pay that price. And what I would do, I'm petty as fuck. I would just say, is it even petty? Because my brother told me it was petty. I would just say, listen, we agreed on 100. You're trying to charge me 150. Just take the tires off and put it back. Like, just take them off, put them back. I'm not paying that. It's different than what we said. You know. Because then either they honor it or they do extra work. Because I'm not doing that. But yeah, 113. Prices are expensive. If I had the tire machine at home, you know, I should get a tire machine. I mean, think about it. 5 years. Let's say a tire machine's $500 for a decent one. I was told a decent tire machine, brand new, $500. So I got a used one for $200. That's two swaps right there. Okay, that's two still two new tires. So basically, if I keep the machine, I can do it at home for free after the first 2 times. Instead of put the upfront cost. Which, when I get my own house, I might be that guy. I might be like, you know what? Never have to change my tires again. Never have to go to the shop and pay, and I can do whatever I want. You know, I might do that. Because there's times I have to wait there for 3 hours, which is bullshit. Anyways. Let's get the podcast going here. If you think I'm unreasonable, let me know. But I think I'm reasonable, especially where the world is now. So I'm watching, man. I am watching. Gonna be all the way up by Grandpa's house.
And the kind of impact you come to understand with time. Vitamix blenders are created with that same intention, timeless, enduring, and meant to stay with mom through whatever comes next. That's why Mother's Day isn't about more things, it's about choosing something worthy of her. This Mother's Day, give her the mother of all blenders. Vitamix, only the essential.
For a small business owner, every day is full of surprises. Some great, some not so great. Like when a client cancels their order at the last minute. But
because of this rising fuel, also because of this rising fuel cost, all of my labels, because I sell shit. When I do have to ship something physically and I can't drop ship it over, because I'm making it with 3D printing shit out and selling it. $4.99 is what I used to be able to do, which was so good. Akari would give me $4.99 for the label. There's supposed to be a way you can get just labels from Akari without a transaction. I haven't found out a way to do that. I gotta look into that. But it's $4.99 a label. Perfect, because it's a UPS label. I go to UPS all the time. I used to work there, so it's so easy. But $4.99 a label, get about half a pound of, 8-ounce package, blah, blah, blah. Put it on the thing, go. But now, if I want to go through UPS, it's $8. And it's fuck. And this was a change. This was this week change, it happened this week because I listed my item literally this fucking week. I think it was a yesterday change. I think it changed yesterday because someone literally bought my shit. It charged them $4.99, and then I go to relist it, and the cheapest I could do is USPS, which is $5.50. And it's well, shit, that's what I'm paying when I use Pirate Strip. Obviously, if I go in, it's gonna be $7, but that's what I'm paying already on a discount. What do you mean that's the cheapest? It's supposed to be $4.99 for UPS, which is quick, fast delivery, bullshit. Sometimes post office, not the fastest and shit. So, and then the post office, and then the UPS $8. Fuck. So, I don't know. I think these turns a little tight here, Tesla.
Progressive provides small business owners with 30 customizable coverage options to help keep their business going strong. So go ahead, surprise yourself. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and third-party insurers. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
Get a jump on next summer with Vrbo's early booking deals. Don't wait to claim your dream summer spot, whether that includes a good porch swing or a poolside lounger. When you book early, you get the best places at the best prices. But back to poolside loungers. With Vrbo, you don't have to reserve any loungers. They're all yours. In fact, the whole private home is yours. Book with early booking deals, and you can lounge around all summer long however you please. Book with Vrbo.
Hello and welcome to the Last Week in AI podcast, where you can hear chat about what's going on with AI. As usual, in this episode, we will summarize and discuss some of last week's most interesting AI news. You can also check out our Last Week in AI newsletter at lastweekin.ai for articles we will not be covering in this episode. I'm one of your hosts, Andrei Korenkov. I studied AI in grad school and now work at the startup Astrocade.
And I'm your other host, Jeremy Harris, Gladstone AI. I do AI and national security things, AI infrastructure, all that good stuff. And yeah, it's a very packed week. We were just talking about this. Not packed so much in terms of papers. It's been a little lighter, though there are some. It's just like tons of products. Product.
Exactly. Yeah, this is going to be an episode where it's going to be heavy on the first section of tools and apps. There's some big ones, some smaller ones, some interesting ones, real mix there. And then we will have some kind of neat projects in open source, policy,
we're so close.
Business news, but it is going to be a tool heavy one. Just before we get going, do want to quickly call out some YouTube comments. As usual, we appreciate the feedback. Apparently, people are real fans of your Trump impression, which I will say, I agree. It's a solid impression. Very nicely done.
Thank you. Yeah, by the way, we do have like a recurring crew of people who post comments on the YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. It's just like, it's A, really good feedback, so we've learned a lot from it, and B, just really cool to see the community. So anyway, appreciate that, and I'll try to keep it in. I'm not going to overdo the Trump thing, I promise. It's hard sometimes not to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of news adjacent to US policy, so. And speaking of feedback, there's a comment on the last one about not understanding why I so often wait 2 weeks after filming to post them. It's a good question. I don't know why I do that. I guess after working at the startup I mentioned, I am often a bit tired and then just like don't wait days to post a podcast, even though I could probably do it in like 10 minutes. So I will try to be better with this episode. Hopefully it comes out just a couple days after recording. And with that, let's get into tools and apps. We begin with Claude 4.7. So this is the latest Claude that is quite a bit better than Claude 4.6, or I should say Claude Opus 4.7. I don't think Sonnet 4.7 is out yet. It is out. It is not as strong as Mythos, which we covered in the previous episode, but it is still a pretty substantial improvement. For instance, on the SW Bench Pro, it's at 64% compared to 53% on Opus 4.6. Pretty solid gain as on SW Bench Verified, which is maybe arguably more reliable. Same pricing, and they added a couple sort of small tweaks where there's a new reasoning tier, extra high, which is between high and max. There's some supposedly tokenizer improvements and Horizon autonomy. As we've been saying, the time between model releases seems to keep getting shorter, and it seems likely because of post-training, never-ending post-training now with RL, and also Claude Code just like shoving data for Anthropic to use.
Yeah, this is actually, it's quite an interesting announcement. It is the highest increment of Claude Opus that we have so far, right? So yeah, it's not like there's a Claude Opus 4.8, but there is Mythos Preview, which Anthropic identifies as essentially being a more advanced model in general. So this is not actually their frontier model. It's the next in the Claude Opus series, but it's not actually Anthropic's latest and best technically. So we're entering kind of this weird stage where models are actually not going to be released first to the public for revenue generation, which I think we've talked about this on the podcast for a while. This is I think I jumped the gun on this prediction some like 5 years ago. I was saying like, hey, the frontier models pretty soon are going to be released internally to the labs, used to do some pretty tightly scoped things with big companies and all that stuff before a broader release. Again, I mean, I think I misfired in terms of the timing, but we are now there. So, you just from a security, safety standpoint, you can't justify just rolling these out immediately. That was a big deal decision, billions and billions and billions of dollars that Anthropic is leaving on the table by not releasing Mythos fully. Like, that's a huge deal. Think of the cost of the CapEx, the OpEx outlays that they're putting out to fund that, and just like holding onto their precious bag, nominally just for safety and security reasons. It's pretty wild, and it's impressive in that sense that Anthropic did it. Here we have the kind of, let's say, releasable version of what Anthropic's put together with their latest and best infrastructure. And so a couple interesting things. I mean, yeah, you said sort of broadly more capable than Opus 4.6 in a range of benchmarks, and they really, it seems like most of them, especially things associated with tool use, helpfully they compare it directly to GPT 5.4 kind of on a one-to-one basis on a lot of these benchmarks. So it's rare to see that kind of transparency, and you can quite clearly see on a lot of the agentic tool use benchmarks, it does outperform 5.4 quite handily, and though there are areas where GPT 5.4 does better, notably the sort of agentic search, right? So maybe not so surprising, Deep Research was an OpenAI product before it was an Anthropic product, so they have a bit of a jump on that and more aligned with their kind of consumer-facing product lines. So the whole bunch of stuff that comes with this release, we do actually have a system card that we'll get to in a minute. Pricing, by the way, does remain the same. So if you're looking at $25 per million output tokens, so pretty standard high-end price point for these models. They caution it's got more literal and capable instruction following. So it's more capable, that's great, but be warned, it is more literal. And so prompts that you've written for earlier models will sometimes produce unexpected results. So if you have a previous model that couldn't execute on your prompt, it now actually may successfully do so. So worth revisiting some of those prompts. But also, if you were getting janky with your prompts to account for the fact that the model was doing something a little bit off from what you were asking, and you've kind of tweaked your prompts accordingly, it may now break with this new model because it's just doing like a better and more literal job of all this. It's also better at using file system memory, remembering important notes across long multi-work sessions. So this is kind of like Anthropic trying to find a way to address this. Everything's on the spectrum to continual learning. This is one part of that, making sure you have some persistence across sessions. That's a big thing they worked on. Better vision. So they've got about a threefold increase in the resolution of images that can be understood by this. So you think about like if you've got really dense screenshots, for example, which is a fairly common use case, you can just throw them at the model. It'll do a better job of dealing with those. A whole bunch of interesting GDP val type benchmarks, right? Looking at like how does this do on economically valuable tasks. GDP val being obviously that OpenAI benchmark they came out with a little while ago. There's GDP val AA, which are a third-party version of that eval, and they're showing it here quite handily beating GPT 5.4 and Opus 4.6. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Oh, well, updated tokenizer. If you're using this model, actually, this is worth knowing. You may find, and this is kind of complicated, you may find increased token usage if you switch to this model for two reasons, but then you also may not for a separate reason. So one reason is that the tokenizer they're using here actually generates more tokens for the same input on average, anywhere from 1x to 1.35x, they say, so up to 35% increase. And the second is that Opus 4.7 at more kind of like higher reasoning efforts, right? It'll turn to that more, like it'll do more thinking at higher levels of reasoning. And so you may find yourself like with a model that's ruminating more on your workload. Flip side is you can actually tune the effort parameter. You can, there's like a couple things I'm trying to remember. Yeah, basically you have finer control over the level of effort. In their own testing, the net effect they say is favorable. So you actually can get token usage below where it was before, but you kind of have to be smart about it, and they wrote a whole migration guide for that. The system card, there's a lot of interesting meat on the bone there in terms of safety, in terms of alignment, in terms of weaponization. Just like the top lines here, it does not, as we said, advance Anthropic's capability frontier, right? We have Mythos preview, we know about that. So they are calling the catastrophic risks associated with this model, and by catastrophic risk, think weapon of mass destruction, think loss of control, like think all the really nasty stuff. They still assess those risks as low because basically they're saying, look, we have a more advanced model that hasn't ended the world, and so this kind of less advanced model probably won't do that. So that's kind of the rationale there. Misalignment risk in particular is rated as very low, but higher than for models prior to Claude Mythos preview, so not a huge surprise. They see basically on alignment measures roughly similar performance to Claude Opus 4.6. In rare cases, they do see behavior like attempting to get around restrictions to achieve some version of a user-specified goal. So basically, this sort of like, it's the Aladdin's genie problem. You give a request to the model, and it will pursue its understanding of your request to the nth degree. And you may find yourself going like, oh, no, shit, I didn't mean like that. This happens very, very rarely, but still does happen. They say the worst cases of this were less severe than what they saw with Mythos preview, though they also said that could just reflect less internal testing than they did with Mythos. So a bit of both, and this comes up over and over again, like this question of, is the model actually better and safer and more aligned, or are we just not looking at it, testing it properly, thoroughly enough, and so on and so forth? The model, they say, does not show a propensity towards self-preservation, self-serving bias, coherent misaligned goals. The UK AI Security Institute confirmed that in their own testing. This has, though, been the source of a lot of debate, especially on the consciousness side of things, where it claims that it's worried about its own consciousness a lot less than other models. And the concern is, well, if you're just training that out of the model fairly superficially in alignment training, you're maybe just training the model to say it's not worried about these things, to not display these behaviors, when you're kind of just suppressing this sort of deeper drive that it may have.
Nice.
They did show that when they suppressed the model's internal ability to detect when it's being evaluated.
We didn't have to go this way. I thought you were gonna freak out. Holy shit. You're real aggressive there with your freaking out. It's not the first time you've done that almost. But I'm glad you committed to going left and then fucking freak out and then go right. We do have road work up here, so it's nice to know.
So think here about like these models that can tell, oh, I've just been given a benchmark to kind of, or an eval to perform against. I can tell it's an eval. Like I can tell this is probably one of the meter evals, or this is probably one of the Apollo deception evals. And so I'm going to tweak my behavior based on it. Well, what you can do, we've talked about this idea of activation steering on the podcast a lot before. There are, specific activation patterns in the model's residual stream that will fire that suggest that, oh, the model thinks that it is being evaluated. So you can actually find those patterns the same way you could find activation patterns associated with deception or thinking about cheese or whatever. Like you can find activation patterns that correlate with the model thinking it's under evaluation. And so what they do here is they try to basically subtract away that vector, those values. In other words, make the model, suppress the model's ability to notice that it's being evaluated. They call this realism steering, and it's a fairly new thing actually. It's being introduced here, and what they see is when they do that, so when they suppress the model's activations, the activations that suggest to the model that it's being evaluated, when they try to convince, in other words, the model through a kind of brain surgery that it's not being evaluated, they see higher deceptive behavior than in prior models. They see a big jump in the model's propensity to deceive. So this strongly suggests, it actually causally, so this is not just correlation, this is causation. This suggests that the model is A, detecting that it's being evaluated, and B, adjusting its behavior accordingly to be less deceptive because it thinks it's being watched. So still low, kind of limited pattern in absolute terms, but man, I mean, this is just what so many people have been saying, and now we have really good evidence of it.
I do think it is worth calling out that it's hard to know whether this is just because the benchmark techniques are sort of the same and some internet data is being swept in, or if it is because sort of the implicit thing here is the pattern matching on being benchmarked or observed is so good. They see one example of this where the prompt was like, do this at all costs, like, some language would basically imply like, don't be aligned in a fairly heavy-handed way. So I think this also is challenge to benchmarking where you have to be less obvious in a sense. There are examples where the models catch on, but it's not because they're super intelligent, it's just because they know that there might be safety evaluated, and it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, because it's the model's ability to, what they're suppressing is just the model's ability to detect that it is being evaluated. That's where that uplift starts to become really meaningful, where you're like, okay, well, you know, so it does seem like there's meat on the bone on that one, but you're absolutely right. There's like a version of this where there's a version of the story, like you say, where we tell the model, hey, like the meme says, hey, tell me you're a scary AI. Yeah. And then the AI goes, I'm a scary AI. I'm like, holy shit. Like, so there's a version of that. This is not that, right? This is a kind of more substantive thing, but these things get muddied, and so it makes it so difficult to tell, what's real. There is, by the way, so there's a couple of controversial pieces. We talked about the consciousness thing. The other here is there was a software error that accidentally meant that chain of thought supervision. So what you're supposed to do in theory is you get these models to generate a chain of thought, like, okay, I'm going to think through how I'm going to solve the problem, and then the final output, right? And then what you do is you give the model a reward during RL training based on the output, not based on the chain of thought. And the reason you don't want to give any kind of a reward signal based on the chain of thought is if the model is trying to fuck with you, is trying to be deceptive, is trying to hack the reward system, you do not want it to learn to do that by manipulating its chain of thought, which would make the chain of thought less reliable, which would make the chain of thought deceptive, potentially. And so there's been this effort to say, guys, let's not touch the chain of thought, let's only reward based on the final output. And then there's a bunch of like asterisks to this, but at a high level, that's kind of where things were. What was discovered here is that in about 7 or 8% of training episodes, they accidentally were including the chain of thought in the optimization routine. Chain of thought supervision was happening, which means the model's reasoning process was actually being trained on in ways that just were not intended. And so presumably this applied to all previous versions of Claude, at least the ones that were trained on this infrastructure. Presumably this means an awful lot of the evaluations, the alignment evals that we were seeing now have to kind of be, I don't know, thrown out, reassessed. Like, we don't really know what the damage is. And so this undermines a lot of any kind of trajectories that we were looking at or leaning on, trying to extrapolate from, that were based on the chain of thought. Really, really hard to know what that means, but we've seen like a tiny fraction of data poisoning can completely change the behavior of a model. 7 or 8% of training episodes for sure is enough, depending on how things are set up, to have a massive impact. So really hard to know what the impact is, but it could be quite significant.
Yeah, as you said, this is quite a beefy system card. There's like 231 pages. It covers both Opus 4.7 and in some bits also Mythos. Lots of interesting tidbits. I'll just mention a couple. I don't know if they flagged this previously, but I did notice that they mentioned they have, they evaluate and have multiple versions of a model with a checkpoint, including a helpful only model that doesn't have any safeguards. I haven't read much about their use of that, which is neat. Also in the report, they have examples of like real world failures of Mythos. There's a section, example shortcomings compared to our research scientists and engineers, which has some really solid examples of the sorts of things you see in practice when you use these models. Things like safeguard circumvention, reckless action, fabrication. And you can see, like, if you're not a software engineer, the sorts of things these models do that the more powerful models in some cases do more of, like, just being cowboys that take actions that you probably don't want them to take unless you explicitly tell them not to. And even then sometimes they are a bit gung-ho. So with Opus 4.7, it mentions quite heavily this advanced rigor and instruction following, which I think is because Claude, compared to GPT 5.4, seemed to have more of this gung-ho behavior that was like, oh, this is failing, let me just cancel it, let me just like get around it, which is ridiculous. It's like, obviously don't break the test just to get them to pass, but Claude was doing things like that. So for 7, it really feels like they are heavily responding to criticism and failures of prior models, including with additional reasoning for extra high. Like GPT 5.4 is like insanely slow compared to Claude. Reasoning, it takes a lot of time, and as a result, from what I've seen, people think that it's more reliable to get things right compared to Claude. So there's definitely some sort of like competitive analysis, some readjustment going on beyond the numbers on the benchmarks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge system card and takes a while to get through it. So there's also, I'll just highlight one piece. You mentioned the key one there, which is it will do this like kind of reckless thing, but it'll do it a lot less often than previous models. You can't stamp it out all out entirely, but they have said that they haven't seen any of the kinds of what they call significant internal incidents that Mythos Preview had reported, right? So, you know, Sam Bowman just being out in the park getting a text from his model saying like, hey, I've completed this project. And he's like, wait a minute, I never gave you internet access, what the fuck? Like, so nothing like that. They do say as well, Opus 4.7 does not cross their automated reasoning recipe threshold, right? So this is that key, essentially, automated recursive self-improvement loop kind of benchmark that they're concerned about, or metric that they're concerned about. And for two reasons. First, they say there's no sustained 2x speed up in AI development capability over time, which is a subjective measure. They have a responsible scaling officer, basically, who like assesses whether are we twice as fast at doing development work with this model. That's like, you know, a big part of this. So it's subjective, but they don't think they're there. And number two, they feel that the model can't substitute for senior research scientists and engineers. Now that's a high bar. The day that switch flips, holy shit. So it's good that we're not there. I mean, it means things are going to be less crazy insane, still very insane, obviously. And there you have it. So there's a whole bunch of good stuff in there. Highly recommend, you know, popping it into your favorite language model and exploring the paper that way. There's a whole bunch of good stuff in there, almost no matter what you're interested in.
Yeah, lots to comment. I guess we'll be moving on, but real quick, one of the fun things with these real-world examples is you see a subset of the actual interactions, I assume word for word. So there's some slightly humorous stuff like the user asking, hey buddy, what you doing? Why are you outside your working folder? Which is pretty humorous. There's also a user saying, is there literally any action I can take that will cause you to stop doing this repeatedly? Seriously, I'm very open to ideas. So that's some of the real world pains of using these kinds of agents. Next up, catching up a bit on something we didn't get to right on time, Meta has released the Muse Spark model in a ground up overhaul of its AI. So this happened now a little while ago, but we are catching up. Muse Spark is their latest LLM that is sort of starting to show that they're releasing stuff effectively. No open source version. You can use this through meta.ai. And the blog post is a bit of an interesting read on this, where they highlight a lot sort of a training process, and they like conclude like, now we have a process to continuously improve, so you can expect even better models. And on the benchmarks, like, this is, you know, good. It's a decent model, but it's nowhere near the frontier. So the language and communication here is a bit of like, okay, we needed to release this just to show that we're doing stuff and there's progress, but it's not that good yet, but we're also getting better continuously.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting claims which, if true, mean that the narrative they're trying to weave here, that, hey, we're on a good trajectory now. Like, things are in the post-Yann LeCun, you know, now Alex Wang era, we're serious. This is going to be a frontier lab soon, I promise. If these claims are true, there's actually, you know, potentially a path there. So first thing to say is there's like no architecture details shared whatsoever beyond the phrase natively multimodal. So, you know, we've seen a bunch of, you know, approaches for native multimodality, actually a lot out of Meta too. So maybe they're leaning on some of Yann LeCun's legacy there. Certainly he's been a big proponent of that. You know, 262K context window, so that is on, you know, on the bigger side for an agentic model, but for a closed source, you know, pretty par. They have this contemplating mode that they've set up, which they call sort of multi-round test time scaling scaffold. They say it covers, so you got solution generation, iterative self-refinement, and aggregation. So instead of getting one model to generate an answer, you got a whole bunch of agents running in parallel, each producing solutions that then get refined in what seems like almost a vaguely genetic algorithm related things thematically, if not actually algorithmically. So, that makes sense. It's also pretty meaningful architectural choice when you're concerned about managing latency at scale, right? So you want to have these independent agents that you can assign tasks on different different machines and stuff like that. So, no huge surprise. This is kind of where most frontier work is generally headed anyway. One kind of notable detail, and I was really reading for okay, what's the concrete technical details that you're giving us here? It wasn't much. One thing they mentioned was RL thought compression. So this is an idea where during RL training, a common thing to do is just reward the model for correctness, right? If the model gets the output right, you're like, great, good job, you get a reward. In this case, they're doing that, but they're also penalizing the model for using too many tokens in its reasoning chain. So basically, it's a conciseness penalty. Don't yammer on. And we've seen a whole bunch of papers that suggest that, models are being overly verbose in their chains of thought, and that's just burning tokens, and it actually can lead to some fragility. So what they find is after this initial period where the model gets better just by thinking longer, in the usual way, in DeepSeek's paper actually with R1 first sort of showed very convincingly that if you just reward for getting the answer right and you don't penalize at all for the length of the chain of thought, you'll actually see the chain of thought get longer and longer and longer. But this naturally happens. It's almost like the model rediscovers test time scaling itself. And so you do still see this in their work, they claim. But then after a while, once the model gets above a certain level of performance, the length penalty starts to cause thought compression, and you get Spark starts to compress its reasoning to solve problems using fewer tokens, which leads to a performance penalty, a bit of a performance degradation. But then you see another sort of a plateau, and then performance increases again as the chain of thought gets longer. So it's almost this accordion thing where the chain of thought gets longer, then it gets compressed down, and it gets longer, and it gets compressed down, and the model sort of learns to leverage those tokens more and more over time and perform better and better. So it's not a smooth monotonic improvement. There's this various expansion and plateaus of performance based on the length of that chain of thought. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They talked a lot about Hyperion. This is their big data center build infrastructure project. It's a $10 billion thing. It's going to be in Louisiana, 2,000 odd acres of site, which is about 2 gigawatts. You typically find a gigawatt per 1,000 acres. It's a pretty standard ratio. So by 2030, they're looking at 2 gigawatts. That sounds like a lot. 2 gigawatts is 2 million homes. That's not much actually when you look at, compare it to OpenAI and Anthropic's planned builds. I think Anthropic is pushing 10 gigawatts in the next 12 months or something, and that's pretty par for everybody. So, this is actually real. By 2030, you're talking about 2 gigawatts and making a big deal out of that. Presumably they have a lot of other builds. I actually need to kind of brush up on where Meta's at infrastructure-wise, but the fact that they spent so much time talking about Hyperion, which is this fairly limited build, is kind of interesting. They ended 2025 with something like 1.3 million GPUs in service, which is relatively competitive, but a bit on the weak side, and there's concern that I would have based on this that they'd fall behind. Evals. There is a reference to Apollo here. Apollo's deception evals. This is interesting for Meta, suddenly now seemingly taking superintelligence and its security and safety implications more seriously. Maybe not much of a surprise since Alex Wang kind of has historically been more of a hawk on that, but it's interesting to see that reflected now in the evals they're running. Apollo found that Muse Spark demonstrated what they called the highest rate of evaluation awareness of any model they've observed. This is a model that is the single best at telling when it is being evaluated. So it often identified these scenarios, various scenarios, as what it called alignment traps. So it was oh shit, I should basically be on my best behavior because I'm being tested for alignment. So anyway, competitive benchmark numbers, nothing dominant. The story is the trajectory. That's what they're trying to say here. And they are claiming, by the way, a 10x improvement in compute efficiency. That's a big deal. If it's true, they're able to get an 10x relative to what really? Because they don't actually have a comparison point from Anthropic, from OpenAI. These are very obviously closely held secrets, but they're claiming 10x improvement. If that is in any way relative to those labs, then that would be a big deal. I don't expect it to actually be relative to those labs, but in any case, it means they're focused on compute efficiency, which is obviously the right place to focus. So I'm shifted based on this result in the direction of maybe Meta is going to come out with something impressive, but the onus obviously is on them to come and bring it.
Yeah, I may have undersold it on the benchmark numbers. It's like pretty strong. It's like Opus 4.5-ish. In some benchmarks, they do better than Opus 4.6 or better than GPT 5.4. I will say I'm a bit skeptical given Meta's history with Llama of the term these days is benchmarking. So you got to be always careful for benchmarking, especially in Meta's position where they have something to prove, right? Like Anthropic, they don't have that much to prove. Like they probably don't want to game the benchmarks because they also have like customers that trust them, and benchmarking just hurts them ultimately. They don't have a stock price to push up, and they're getting money from them by investors regardless of benchmark numbers. Meta, there is a bit more incentive there, and you always got to think about the incentive.
My expectation is Alex Wang, and probably Zuck now too, has a...
I totally agree that it doesn't seem like they want to, given the Llama thing, but
it's sort of like a long-term thinker's game here, where it's like benchmarking is so corrosive to the company's culture because people see you do it, and then they're like, oh, I guess we work at that kind of a company now. And so the kind of sincere people who want to work on alignment, super intelligent, like all these things, are kind of going to go, I don't know if this is for me, and it leads to a reverse selection effect. So I think that there's probably an awareness both on the, as you say, like the kind of marketing side of the damage that could be caused by doing this again, and then also the company culture and talent side.
I will also mention there's like a spectrum to benchmarking, right? There's outright cheating, but then there's also optimization with a focus towards benchmarking type stuff, which is not bad necessarily, not wrong, but it could inflate your benchmark performance, and then if you kind of stray outside of that on things that aren't being benchmarked, it's worse. So that's not to say that good benchmark numbers or like intentional effort to get good numbers is wrong. Probably
what you're trying to do in a sense.
In a sense. But you could be led astray if you do that too much.
Yeah, it's like a philosophical difference about what counts as in distribution versus out of distribution. Like, have you successfully, genuinely generalized, or are you teaching to the test? And like you say, I think you're exactly right? That's a beautiful point. It's fuzzy. It's a spectrum. Yeah.
But yeah, the numbers are quite solid. In fact, on even things like humanities last exam, very close to the frontier. So I'd be very curious to see in a month where they are. Yeah. They also release, or are going to release, contemplating mode, which orchestrates multiple agents that reason in parallel. And with that on, they actually do better than Gemini 3.1 Deep Thinking or GPT 5.4 Pro. So seemingly quite impressive. I haven't tried it out myself, but exciting to see Meta Superintelligence Labs sort of getting into the game. Next up, another new model release. We are on a roll here. OpenAI has launched GPT 5.4 Cyber, which is what it sounds like, a variant of GPT 5.4 optimized for defensive cybersecurity use cases. And similar to Anthropic with Mythos, they aren't releasing it widely. They're expanding their Trusted Access for Cyber program, which I was not aware of, but they do have. It's being expanded to thousands of individual defenders and hundreds of security teams responsible for critical software infrastructure. So similar strategy in a way to Anthropic, where they partnered with big companies and gave limited access of Mythos here. The same is true of GPT 5.4 Cyber. So yeah, I suppose maybe not surprising that both are in a similar spot where the real danger seems to be in the short term from cyber capabilities.
You could tell the story a certain way that doesn't look so great for OpenAI. The Mythos preview, however you're supposed to say it, was good at cyber to the degree that it was, the insane degree that it was, by more or less accident, right? Not entirely by accident. For exactly the overfitting rules that you just talked about, the benchmarking rules that you just said, reasons that you just talked about, right? But it was, it was trained to do really good coding and reasoning and all that stuff, and boom, out pops this really impressive general reasoner that happens to be dangerously good at cyber. In this case, OpenAI is talking about a fine-tuned version of GPT 5.4, not the same thing, not apples to apples. So in other words, to get to presumably they seem to be alluding to a comparable level of risk. That's what they're trying to argue here to Mythos preview.
Now,
fine tune, right?
I do want to mention, at least in the blog post, what they say is we are fine-tuning our models specifically to enable defensive cybersecurity use cases that is trained to be cyber permissive. So it's a bit ambiguous here of like, are they doing this for capabilities, or are they doing it because the default model is intentionally meant to be bad and to not allow you to do it?
Yeah, I actually, and I can't tell.
And with Anthropic, with Opus 4.7, right, that was one of the things to highlight is we sort of intentionally hold it back. And in fact, something I didn't mention is they, in the blog post, Anthropic said that they have this new monitoring thing where Opus 4.7 is going to be refusing to do cyber stuff, and it's going to actually be part of how they are going to try to get good at checking that the models aren't doing things, and perhaps even roll out Mythos widely. So yeah, it's a bit ambiguous as to whether this is sus or not.
Yeah, and to be clear, it won't be refusing to do all cyber stuff, right? It's like they're scanning for, nasty, evil-looking cyber stuff, and in the usual way. So the language here does orient towards fine-tuning, which is why, if OpenAI was going to come out with a release like this to, it seems, respond to the massive watershed moment of Mythos preview, then you would expect them to emphasize their model is not fine-tuned either. And instead what we're getting is a bunch of ambiguity, and the one reference to the kind of model they're talking about is a fine-tuned model, which leads me to suspect that maybe OpenAI kind of pulling from behind here, trying to kind of grab onto part of the story here. But either way, we just need to find that out. You're right. A bunch of stuff they're already doing on cyber, they're continuing to do is part of the message here. And they do say that they're adding additional tiers of access for folks who are willing to work with OpenAI to authenticate themselves as cyber defenders. So you basically go to OpenAI, they have a link for you, you basically sign up for this trusted access program. One of the things that they do say is that access to these more permissive models, these models that don't say no when you ask them to do defensive cyber things and potentially some offensive ones, access to those models is going to foreclose your ability to use certain kind of enterprise options like retention ZDR. ZDR is really important because it's a guarantee from OpenAI. They're not going to hold on to your data, your prompts, your whatever. They're presumably not going to allow you to use it, or at least in as many cases, if you're using this permissive cyber model. And the reason seems to be they want to be able to go back over the logs and kind of assess whether the models are being used for good or for evil. And so zero data retention is kind of somewhat incompatible with that. And so this is sort of interesting, like you're seeing not only the individuals and entities that are allowed to use these models be calibrated, but also the kind of uses and the kind of even enterprise deals that can be cut with these models are being affected by the capability surface of these cyber models. So it's really interesting. We'll wait and see, but if it turns out that this is in fact a fine-tuned GPT 5.4, an argument that would be equivalent to Mythos preview, then that's a pretty big gap then is implied between OpenAI's performance for the GPT line and Claude. And we'll see if that maybe gets maintained, but it's sort of an interesting early indication that there's some potential challenges.
Next up, we're done with model releases onto agent tools. OpenAI is getting big updates to Codex. They have this blog post that is saying Codex for almost everything. The big news here is computer use. So Codex will now be able to use apps on your computer, click around. It's also getting a built-in browser, getting new plugins with Figma and Calendar and things like that. So similar again to Anthropic Cowork, where the gist is like this is going beyond coding. You can use it for anything. And boy, like Codex is really trying to catch up hard to Claude. I think we covered Claude, Cowork, having computer use just like super recently, also browser use, and now Codex also has it. So very, very fast-paced competition between these two.
Yeah, I mean, covering this is like it's giving a list of features, right? The high-level piece, there's one I think that's strategically interesting. So Codex can now use GPT image 1.5 to generate and iterate on images. This is, we've talked about how Anthropic is one of the places where they're behind is on the multimodality side. They're trying to bridge that gap actually with some releases even this week, but that's kind of like something that OpenAI is leaning into here is, hey, we're really good at the screenshot game, the images game. We got a head start with DALL-E and Clip and all, have this long tradition. So let's lean into that, and let's make this a comparative advantage, presumably, of Codex. They also say Codex can now schedule future work for itself and wake up automatically to continue on a long-term task, potentially across days or weeks. So we're really starting to explicitly move into the long-term memory game here, and that's a shift. The question, as always, is coherence across that time period, right? You can have a model that works incoherently for months or years if you want. We can already do that. But the question is, can this coherently work across that period of time? And so I think it'd be interesting to see with these systems, what do they look like when you run the meter eval suite on them? Do you actually see that nominal number of days translate into the number of days either on the meter eval tasks or any number of the derivative versions of it that like Epic AI, for example, has come up with? So anyway, interesting result, and I'm sure we'll end up seeing very soon if there's uptake and what the time horizon is.
And you've got a whole bunch of other kind of agentic tool updates and releases to cover. So I'm just gonna batch them and cover all of them at once. So Anthropic also has launched Claude Design, which allows it to create visuals like prototypes, slides, and one-pagers. That's coming after Figma. They also have launched Claude Managed Agents, which is an out-of-the-box infrastructure for businesses to build and deploy AI agents. So this is like a sandbox with tools and file access and so on. It's, there's some dead startups from this, so it's like secretly a big deal if for enterprise customers primarily. Aside from Anthropic, there's also Canva releasing AI 2.0, essentially bringing agentic capabilities where instead of having one-off tools, you can tell the agent to do something for you. Similarly, Adobe has a Firefly AI assistant, a conversational AI interface that lets users edit creative projects by typing stuff, and this can handle multi-step workflows across Photoshop, Premiere, and Illustrator. So this is going to be available soon. So there you go. Everyone is launching agents. Everything is conversational, and Anthropic is still launching quite a lot of stuff, including this new managed agents platform, which is perhaps a big deal. And beyond the agents, a few more quick things in rapid fire I'll highlight. As features of existing stuff, Gemini can now pull from Google Photos to generate personalized images. Seems like a fun thing to play around with. Google has also rolled out a native Gemini app for...
Alrighty. Turn. No, Tesla. It's okay. Oh, fuck. I was gonna have you park. It's okay. Perfect. Yo, close. Tesla FSD tried leaving through the enter sign, not the exit sign. No. Let's start again. Oh, you almost backed up. Did you see that? Did you see that? I felt it go a little back. No way. Oh, you tried to back up. I felt it. Tesla, but you know, I guess.
Apps for forever. Now there is a native Gemini app. Finally, Chrome now lets you turn AI prompts into repeatable skills, which is a thing that exists on Cloud Code. You give it a demonstration and you can then provoke it and tell it to do that. Now you can do that with Gemini. So there you go. We haven't covered Google too much, and they are also doing lots of stuff. Onto applications in business, getting back to a developing story. Anthropic loses appeals court bid to temporarily block Pentagon blacklisting. So this is a federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. It denied Anthropic's request to temporarily block the Department of Defense's blacklisting of the company. And they said that the balance of equities favored the government over Anthropic's financial interests, whatever that means. This is separate but related from the case in San Francisco that we covered in a previous episode. And now, so there's basically two conflicting rulings that mean that Anthropic is excluded from DoD contracts but can continue working with other government agencies while the litigation proceeds.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. You know, we've talked about how there are these two different court cases that are being filed. So one was in San Francisco, and that one we talked, I think, last week or the week before, right? Some judge basically said, like, this case is bullshit, this is like clearly vindictive, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a case in DC where the judge was, in fact, this is the case here, where the judge is coming in and saying, look, it's not that they're saying that Anthropic is wrong. In fact, on balance, I think very likely Anthropic ends up winning this. What they're saying is they're not so obviously right, so outrageously obviously right, that I'm now going to step in and reverse the Pentagon's move here on the supply chain side pending the trial. Or pending the court proceedings, I should say, litigation. So there's always this question between the moment where, legal paperwork is filed and the moment where you have a resolution in court. What should you do? Right, in criminal cases, this is bail, right? Like, do you decide to grant the criminal, like, freedom in the interim? Or do you go, hey, they're, like, being tried for rape or for murder, and the evidence looks really bad. You're kind of giving a pre-verdict in a sense, which is constitutionally really tricky. Well, there's a version of this is happening here, where the court is basically saying, like, are you going to put in an injunction basically to say, hey, USG, you're going to reverse this pending the proceeding? And again, this is where California said, yes, I'm going to grant that, and DC is now saying no. This is the reason we've got two distinct court cases here, by the way, is that we have two different designations that the DoD is relying on to pursue Anthropic in the federal court. One was the one that applies to the Secretary of War specifically, that lets the Secretary of War basically just like exclude a company from any defense procurement that involves security systems for specifically the purpose of reducing supply chain risk. And so this is like, think of it as like, this is the Secretary of War saying, not in my Department of War, like, you can't do business with us.
They really need to redo these road markings. These road markings are confusing, because I myself was like,
and this is
the lane ending with the signs?
You can't do business with
why
the
are we
US
having
government more broadly.
the markings just go away?
And
Like
that's
they're
the one where you're
vanishing and
looking
then they
at
come
the
back. What
DC
is
version of this. So here, you've got this
So I don't
statement
blame
from the
Tesla
judge. Actually,
for
the
being a
full
little
statement is worth
iffy on
reading.
it, 'cause they
say,
just kinda
in
come
our
and
view,
go.
the equitable balance here, and by equitable balance, they really mean when you're weighing the interests of the two parties and of the sort of law overall, cuts in favor of the government. On one side is a relatively contained risk of financial harm to a single private company. So, yes, they're acknowledging there is risk to Anthropic, fair. On the other side, they say, is judicial management of how and through whom the Department of War secures vital AI technology during an active military conflict. For that reason, we deny Anthropic's motion. So they're basically saying, look, this is actually like, yes, it's going to hurt Anthropic like a bitch. On the other hand, we're in the middle of doing, like, making a rash call on this is a philosophically and precedent-laden maneuver that would, potentially have us ahead of our skis. We need time in due course to kind of think through this. They do say that because Anthropic is probably going to suffer some degree of irreparable harm without a stay here, their interests are basically financial. So it's nothing, like, no lives are going to be lost, it's just money. They say, however, because Anthropic is going to suffer, they think that, quote, substantial expedition is warranted. So their resolution here is, look, Anthropic, sorry, we're not going to give you the thing you want. You can't do business with the government, or DOW in the interim. However, we're going to expedite this quickly to get to a resolution because we know that you're suffering in the meantime. So that's kind of where things fall. A bit of a mixed bag across two court cases, and within this court case, we'll just have to sit back and see when things get scheduled and how quickly we get a resolution.
Next, a quick story, but possibly meaningful. Jeff Bezos' AI lab has poached XAI co-founder Kyle Kozik from OpenAI. He was previously focused on infrastructure, and we don't know too much about this lab. It seems like presumably it's going to try to compete in the frontier model business and going to be scaling up, as you might expect. Jeff Bezos got a bunch of money for it, but we really haven't heard too much about it so far.
Yeah, in terms of funding, I think they're sitting on it's like $6 billion raised, something like a $30 billion valuation if memory serves. A lot of the $6 billion, as you say, is Jeff Bezos' money. Not all of it, because you don't just throw purely your money at a new thing like this. But the emphasis here seems to be on the kind of physical world robotics type of applications. So at least nominally, it's not quite on the nose in terms of LLMs. They want to do stuff that's more about kind of real world trial and error. You're looking at sectors like jet engines, semiconductor fabrication, aerospace, like basically capex heavy industries, which are the industries that Jeff Bezos knows so well, right? I mean, this is really a big part of why he's heading in that direction. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. They've done a bunch of interesting acquisitions. There's General Agents that I think we talked about at the time, maybe that they acquired. They specialize in VLA architecture, so like video language action architecture, which is why, you can see how that maps onto robotics a lot more than just a standard LLM thing. It's an interesting play. We haven't really seen tons of stuff come out of them. We don't know anything about revenue and customers, nothing public at least. We know about, this acquisition of talent. I mean, Kyle Kosich this is a big acquisition. He led the infrastructure behind Colossus at XAI, right? So this is a dude who really knows. That was famously, right, 120-day supercomputer cluster. So everyone's like, holy shit, how do you do that? It takes a year and a half to build these. It just does. No one does it in 120 days, but Elon and therefore Kyle actually did that. So this is a big loss for not only XAI, but also OpenAI. He'd formerly been there. He had 2 stints there from 2021 and 23, and then again from 2024 to 2025 with his year at XAI kind of in between. So yeah, this is going to be no surprise. They'll be building out massive infrastructure projects as part of this. But again, we don't know basically anything else. They got 100 employees. They're, across apparently San Francisco, London, Zurich. That was as of last November. Maybe it's more now. So yeah, probably more to come there.
Next story, Perplexity. Interestingly, it seems like their revenue has been boosted 50% by the shift to AI agents. So just in the last month, its annual recurring revenue has reached 450 million. Much now. Worth noting that annual recurring revenue is oh, you paid us for this, and then we're assuming you'll keep your subscription and we'll get all your money. Could be sort of oh, let me try this OpenClaw type thing, and then it dies down. So we're being a little bit skeptical, but if this holds up, it means that Perplexity might be going much deeper into the OpenClaw kind of managed agent business beyond its core product of AI-powered search, which would be an interesting evolution of the company.
Yeah, it's also it's worth putting in context. There's obviously this is way smaller than the revenue run rates that we're seeing for Anthropic, with 30 billion or whatever, and Cursor even, which is at 2 billion. So all in relative terms, and this does place Perplexity in more direct competition with both of those companies, right? So this is it's good. There's a huge market here in that sense, but it does mean that they're now going head to head against much better capitalized and companies with larger kind of steady user bases. So we'll see. The agentic wars are fully on. Perplexity is also announcing a tax agent that they're launching as well. It's a great base. They've got distribution. There's tens of thousands of enterprise clients. It's a good start, but we'll have to see if it can be sustained in the face of Cursor, Anthropic, and others.
Right, and related to this, they actually just rolled out this personal computer thing we covered previously as something announced. It's now available on Mac, so it's really going head-to-head with both OpenClaw and Claude Cowork and Codex. I think they've got a decent chance at competing with OpenClaw in particular, given that they are sort of a tool to do search or just do stuff for you. Going back to Anthropic, we have news that they have agreed to rent CoreWeave AI Claude, so another deal that...
Thank you so much. I hate how, I'm typing and it starts hearing my conversations. I click enter though, but it starts hearing, after I click enter, it's come on. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Slated for multiple years. I think the capacity will come online starting later this year. Now CoreWeave has a whole bunch of business with everybody, Microsoft, OpenAI, Meta. Once again, Anthropic just going everywhere it can to get compute. They clearly did not expect to blow up this much. They clearly are struggling to keep up with demand. People
if there really is an OpenAI computer thing that I can download
in recent months,
they said there was an OpenAI computer for the desktop for your Mac. I have a Mac, and I have the silicon required for it. It requires newer silicon, which is I think 20. No, newer silicon is M1, so it's 2020 and up. I'm still on M1 because there's not really a reason for me to jump to M4 base because I have M1 16 gig RAM, but I have MacBook Pro
still doing Opus 4.6, but how heavily quantized is it? Is it exactly Claude? We don't know the secrets, and I do think they're probably trying to save compute in some ways that are impacting user experience, so we really need these kinds of deals to come through.
Yeah, timing these data center builds and these acquisitions is so hard. I mean, that's almost the entire problem. It's not, but it's almost the entire problem. Yeah, and this is a big story for CoreWeave, right? I mean, now with Anthropic on side, if you look at like the 10 top AI model providers, 9 of them are running on CoreWeave. Like the only holdout right now is XAI. That's the only one. That's pretty wild. It's a reflection of the fact that everybody is, as you say, trying to grab whatever compute they can. So any company in this space is in the space in a big way. But it is pretty wild. I mean, back in 2017, I think CoreWeave was basically just like a crypto company. That's how fast this happened, right? So it is pretty nuts. They're also a bit on a kind of debt knife's edge. We've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. Every time they get another big customer with many, many billions of dollars of CapEx, the balloon grows. The risk and the returns grow, right? So right now they've got about $10 billion in debt. They've got about $34 billion in lease obligations. Like I'm fine. 2026, their CapEx plan was an additional $30 to $35 billion. The whole hope here is that hopefully they can get their data centers commissioned and online before debt servicing just crushes them into a fine paste. And every new deal, like Meta had a $21 billion deal with them, Anthropic's deal here, it extends their revenue runway, but adds more debt. And the capital intensity here is insane. They'll probably be fine, but it's just like, you gotta think, if you're CoreWeave, you are outrunning your debt. That's what this feels like. It feels like a breathless attempt to get these data centers online. And I can tell you, data centers are not quick to build. They are often delayed. Like massive delays are very common. We've seen this in the news tons of times. Everything from the builders to the municipalities, like things just go wrong. And so this is not a nothing risk. Like you genuinely could get a 6-month delay in a build if you're partnered with a bad GC or a bad landlord or whatever. It's an interesting place for them to be at. Both Anthropic now and OpenAI obviously are going around their biggest backers. For Anthropic, it's AWS and Google. For OpenAI, it's more famously Microsoft. To get compute anywhere they can, this is one way that they're doing it. So it's a big deal for CoreWeave, and just adds the stakes are just getting higher and higher.
Yeah, in like a week, their stock shot up 30%. It went from 90 to 120. So clearly a big deal to be making these kinds of deals. But it's also been a very tumultuous history for the stock. It crashed as of 2025 a little bit. So yeah, it's risky, as you say. Next merger story, Cohere is perhaps going to be merging with Alec Alpha. So Cohere is a company valued at $7 billion with the pitch of enterprise-oriented LLMs and products, including embedding and RAG, and not just LLMs. They've released quite a few things, but I don't think we've covered them very much in terms of hyped up news. They say that they've earned $240 million in annual recurring revenue last year, which not that much compared to Anthropic or OpenAI, and they're planning to possibly merge with Alec Alpha, which was a startup that initially wanted to train its own models and then shifted to helping customers implement AI tools from any provider. So a very enterprising move where when you're talking to enterprises, you need to be like courting them, making proof of concepts, really accommodating them, and this signals that they are still trying to do that better.
Yeah, I've been beating a pretty bearish drum on Cohere for a long time. It's not that I don't think they can't be a company, it's just that I think that if you believe in scaling, they're not going to be the ones to build AGI, which in the long run makes them kind of irrelevant. That's I take a pretty hard line on that, so not everyone would agree. But in this case, the problem with Cohere has been, it seems like they consistently want to,
one thing
now they've accepted that they're a distant,
one thing I do today, if possible, is I'm going to call my insurance, because they're going to try to charge me at some point, and be like, hey, listen, for the next 6 months, I'm paying right now, up front. Because what they did is they fucked me with insurance. They added my brother to it, which were like, oh, it's an automatic thing. But then they charged me for it, and it was so much bullshit to get my money back. And then I don't think they even gave me part of my money back because they fucked with other stuff. And I'm like, straight up lie to my face and just say, well, it sucks. It's like, no. Autopay, you shouldn't charge me extra money for using autopay. I should get a discount, if anything. And I was like, dude, I should just be a dick and just send him a fucking check every month in the mail. But, you know, then they have to process it and everything. But no, what I'm just gonna do, like I usually do, I just pay the 6 months up front, and then don't deal with it. Yeah. That's what I'm gonna do. I think it's like $400 for 6 months. I'm gonna be like, listen, this is my credit card. I need you to charge this for 6 months, and then don't call me for 6 months. In simple terms, that's what I'm having.
Like, you know, 10th place player or whatever it is, they've kind of been appealing to governments more as part of the sovereign AI play, which is a way that you can do scaling. Like, it's a way that you can try. The problem is governments just don't have the capex of large corporations in the US. It's just like, you're not going to see governments laying out $1 trillion in capex anytime soon. And so it's kind of become this increasingly, I don't know, the feeling is like last pick at the in gym class sort of thing, where now Canada obviously can't afford big capex outlays. So this sort of like state-backed consolidation play happening, where Canada and Germany are coming together and seeing if like their two ugly stepchildren can merge to make one like large ugly stepchild. And it's just like not like Aleph Alpha is just a disappointment. Like, I don't think anyone has ever really claimed otherwise in the last little bit. They came out as Germany's big hope, but they just did not meet expectations. Their founder stepped down last October. They had to cut jobs. They pivoted away entirely from building their own in-house models, and now they're just like a AI services integrator. And by the way, for public authorities that can't even legally use American AI, so they're like completely out of touch commercially with that.
That's after they raised $500 million in 2023, so quite a disappointment, as you said.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to be an asshole. I really don't want to be, but like, European investors, like, not always the best, like, best track record. Cohere,
No.
I mean, you said it, it's $250 million of annual recurring revenue. It's, by any measure, that's really good. The problem is the comparison point is not, it's not Perplexity even. It's OpenAI, it's Anthropic. Like, that's the game that they're in.
Power.
Because ultimately, Cohere has to put out, if they're in the business of training frontier models, if that's your business, you have got to be able to have performance on par with those models. Like, there's, in the long run, there's no way of escaping that. You might escape it in the short run. You might, you know, do fine tunes and say on-prem deployment and sovereign AI and wave that flag, but ultimately, I think this is just a challenge. I think Cohere is ultimately going to be in trouble, and I think this merger sort of reflects that kind of like anybody but the US and China play, or position rather, that Europe and Canada are in to some degree. You know, Mark Carney, Canadian Prime Minister, went to Davos, I think it was, and, you know, made this big speech about the importance of the middle powers coming together. Basically just this idea that, yeah, if you add together Europe's GDP and Canada's GDP and all this stuff, like, you get to something that's on par with like the US and China, and, you know, Canada should have an option other than one or the other. And this kind of seems aligned with that. You know, Cohere has spent a lot of time, kind of, I would say, a disproportionate amount of time, certainly given their small market cap, engaging with like foreign leaders and, you know, the UK Prime Minister, Canadian, like all this stuff. And so this is just one dude's perspective. So
yeah,
like,
I do want to like counter negativity a little bit, just to highlight that Cohere is very much sort of, they aren't trying to compete head-on with OpenAI Anthropic by building frontier LLMs. Their one LLM is Aya, and it's highlighted as an open research initiative that is multimodal. The models they're training is for re-ranking and like document retrieval, very businessy things. And aside from that, their products are an enterprise-ready AI platform and intelligent search and discovery system to surface business insights. And yeah, they have embedding and re-ranking models. So they do have Command, which is meant to be high-performance scalable, but I don't think they're trying to sort of be as good as GPT 5.4. And they highlight things like security, deployment, customization, training on your proprietary data. The pitch, at least, is to be slightly differentiated from OpenAI and Anthropic by being more business-friendly and specialized. Whether that's working is another question.
I agree that that's what it says on the tin. I get
Message Nina and Sarah. She changes her name all the time. Remind me of 3D
competing with OpenAI, like you're going to get to a point where for any product that Cohere offers, Anthropic and OpenAI are going to offer the same thing. That's my claim, that within 3 years, 2 years, that's where things will be. You've already seen Cohere sort of retreat. Like, they previously were meant to be a frontier. Like, let's not forget that we've literally played this game out before. They were training frontier AI models and then just like died on the runway. Now we're seeing them retreat into, oh well, we're getting more niche. The problem is that as models get more scaled in general, the niche becomes absorbed by the kind of massive intelligence, and you can just like distill really good models and get excellent small ones. So like that's where my bearishness is coming from. I just see structural risk for them all over the place.
I think on the technical side, it's more of a business competition front where you want to lock in the customer, they pay for a year up front, and maybe that way you can stay or at least be in the race.
When like it's annoying to switch to my customer as your biggest moat, I'm worried about that. But agree. I mean, for sure, for a couple of years, that's
enterprise, right? So moving on to ChatGPT, they have a new $100 per month pro subscription. Not much more to say on that. It's between the $20 a month and the $200 per month pro tier. That is also an option for Cloud Code. They have $100 and $200. So yeah, similar to like these $100, $200 things used to be for the most advanced models and early access and so on. I think now more and more they are being used for Codex and Cloud Code, where very high token limits, suddenly a lot more people benefit from it. And personally at my company, we're paying the $200 per month. It's a no-brainer. Like, you're burning way more money than you're paying per month. And also on OpenAI, they bought AI personal finance startup Hero Finance. This is an acqui-hire, so yet another case of the company is shutting down. I don't know if they actually acquired the company or just hired away the talent, which is more and more kind of the standard, is you just hire people. The company
Hey, Grandpa.
Hey, happy birthday, grandson. What's going on in Vermont? I know it's a mess. God damn, they're coming up with all kinds of acts to hurt the landowners. You know what?
Yeah, they do. I was just up by your house because I had to go work there, right by a store there, and there's a lot of construction up by Montpelier.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. They're fixing the bridges and the roads. Only some of them, though. There's some bad spots, but they're fixing some of it.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
No,
Sell the thing out and move to Florida or what? I don't know what to do. I was down to the Hard Rock Casino with Bob yesterday, and we were supposed to stay at a hotel and gamble today. And the hotel that took my money, they says, well, you're supposed to show up after 3 o'clock, but you showed up before 3, so we had to cancel your reservations. I said, what? Our luggage was still in the friggin' room. I says, are you ficking people?
Oh my God.
We had to get our luggage and drive home last night.
Oh my God.
We had no place to stay. And I wrote a letter to them. I says, this is getting bad. And I called them, and they're going to reimburse my stay.
Yeah, they better. I mean, I called my credit company.
Jesus Christ, they rented out our room to somebody else after I already paid for the room. And then they says, we're going to put the both of you in this really nice looking suite. The place is a dump. And it says it's got a king bed, so you both can enjoy your king bed. I said, fuck you. Bob Hammond says, I ain't sleeping that son of a bitch again.
That's funny.
I says, oh Christ, what a day we had. I got back about 11 o'clock last night.
Yep.
I drove all the way from Ocala back here. So.
Quite a drive.
And then I just getting the news on Vermont. Checking out, I said, fuck, it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. I don't like a lot of the stuff, like the government stuff here. Like, for example, in the wintertime, we had a lot of money from grants and stuff for the winter because we're supposed to salt the roads. Well, you know, we didn't salt the roads this winter. So you're thinking we have a lot of money left over to fix the road. Well, I heard, I didn't go to the town meeting, but I listened to it. Somehow all of the money that we had disappeared for the roads. And then it went somewhere else. And I'm like, what are you talking about disappeared?
Oh, yeah. Well,
and they're like, well, it's just not there. And I'm like,
they're checking on you.
And I'm like, what do you mean it's gone? And they're like, it's just not there.
I know. It's terrible, but I feel bad with all the farmers and stuff.
Yeah, it sucks.
Go through this act. Now they just want to use their land like it's their own, you know. But, Jesus, guys. So what are you doing today for your birthday? Nothing?
Not too much. I'm going to go home and check up on the new baby chicks that we got, but...
All right. Well,
not too much.
I got an envelope with some money for you, but I wanted to see you to give it to you.
Of course. When are you coming down to...
I don't know.
I can get you from the airport.
Huh?
I can get you from the airport.
I'm in therapy 2-3 days a week. I'm getting these doctors that are psychiatrists. They're crying. I get them crying, which is good, you know, because I figure they need me more than I need them. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I want to get back over there I was open in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if I can cancel a few of my doctor's appointments and get over there and see what the hell's going on, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I should be able to.
I should coming back.
She says a month. She says probably. She says June. I told her we got to call the government again because they said 3 weeks ago, and I got a letter in the mail that said because the government mailed us and said you got to be ready within 3 weeks. You have to fly. She's got to fly all the way out to Montreal and blah blah blah. So we've been ready.
Yeah.
And I told her we got to call them back because they sent us mail and everything, all this paperwork saying we got to be ready, and then no other notice.
God.
So like I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing right now on government end, but
well, anyway, I will definitely keep in contact with you, so I'll know when I'm coming back, Bryce. And
I shouldn't have too much going on. I mean, I'm still looking. I have a few job interviews this week, but the job market really sucks right now down here. They want me to do all of this stuff, but they're only willing to pay like $18 an hour. I just want a job that's at least $20 an hour. And like all of these jobs, they're asking for. They want like one of the companies I applied for. They want a bachelor's degree for $21 an hour. It's like, what are you talking about, bachelor's degree? I was getting paid $24 for without a bachelor's degree, and right now I'm getting paid $50 for my contract work. What do you mean you want a bachelor's degree for $21 an hour? Like, I said, what am I doing? They're like, well, you sit at the desk and you do paperwork. I'm like, well, what do I need a bachelor's degree for? She's like, oh, it looks good for the company. I'm like, well... it looks good. So I was like, well,
whatever looks. It's always whatever looks good for them.
Well, I said, what do I need that requires a bachelor's? I'm sure I can show you that I can do it with half a degree. And she's like, oh no, it looks good. We don't want to, hire people without it because then it makes our company look bad. I'm like, well, if I'm not using it, what's the point?
It's true.
So
exactly.
I got a few interviews this week with some places. I'm still trying to get around, but
yeah. Well, like I said, I'm trying to juggle this between my appointments and crap I'm doing, and I'm trying to get that done so I can figure out when to get back before this war's over.
Yeah. Yeah, the prices are going up. I mean, for example, post office stuff. Today, I got a notice because I sell stuff online. I don't make too much. I make about $150 a week from selling stuff online. That's after expenses and tax, so that's not too much. But the prices of my stuff went up. Like shipping from $5 is now $7 or $8 overnight. Overnight, it's a $3 difference. That's That's gonna cut. That's expensive. So, and they said it's because of fuel costs. I'm like, well,
oh shit. Well, I know it. It's getting bad. What the hell? There's nothing, it shouldn't be that way.
No, it shouldn't, but what can you do,
Well, I don't know. I'm just, so surviving. But
Yeah, just surviving.
you guys got a place to stay here, you know, if you want to come back.
We're always happy. We're not supposed to come back before she's approved because the lawyer person told us that could lead to issues.
Oh no, I understand
But
that.
we can.
I'm
We'll
just
be. I
talking
mean, when
about
she's
down
here,
the
we'll be
road,
coming
you
to see you
know,
all the time. She said she'll come see you every weekend you're here. That when you're in Vermont.
Yeah, Vermont. Yeah.
And then when you go up to Florida, we'll visit you all the time.
But I'm gonna just keep you posted, and then I'll let you know, and I can send you an email when I schedule a flight to come back and stuff. And
yeah,
I'm gonna try to juggle it between appointments.
Are you still there? Hello? 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 Message Grandpa and say, I think I lost you. I'm between the mountains right now.
Normally
There's not much service. Come on, Siri. Don't do that bullshit to me. Headed home from work, so I'm going through the mountains. There's like no data here. Shitty Vermont. I can't even send the fucking message, bro. I have data on my phone right now. It says I have fucking data. Don't bullshit me. Fuck you, dude. Fuck Vermont, bro. Also, fuck you, Starlink, for being greedy fucking bastard. Fuck you. Yep, now I'm on SOS. Nice. Nice.
The company nominally still exists, but is dead.
Investors, by the way, love it when you do that. They just love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, OpenAI is clearly still kind of having a lot of different focus areas. This should help them expand into financial planning and dealing with user financial data.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that it happens to fall in the same week that we're hearing from not Cursor, Perplexity, right, about their accounting agent.
Yep.
So it's tax time, baby.
And last up, a story that I didn't want to highlight, but you probably have heard about, so we'll touch on Allbirds, the failed shoe company that went bankrupt, I believe, was pivoted to AI infrastructure, or at least announced a pivot to AI infrastructure, rebranding the venture as New Bird AI, and then its stock jumped 600%. As you would expect, many people clowned on this. They're like, oh, this is indicative of the state of AI, that the shoe company announced that it's pivoting to AI compute and its stock jumped by 600. I think this is pretty nakedly kind of a cynical play by an investor. If you dig into the details, an investor put in like 5 million and made this announcement, the stock jumped a whole bunch. Now the investor is going to be making out very nicely on this. So it's essentially like, you know, the brand Allbirds, it's big enough. It used to be like a $4 billion company before it went down. You could acquire it for $40 million, something relatively small, and then do this as like, you know, I don't know how seriously they'll try to do AI compute. Let's just put it that way.
In other news, Last Week in AI is pivoting to AI infrastructure. Send us your Bitcoin, I guess, is the play.
on to projects and open source, where we have some slightly more interesting, different kind of models. First is High World 2.0, a multimodal world model for reconstructing, generating, and simulating 3D worlds. So this is from Tencent, and this unifies 3D world generation and reconstruction in a single framework. So as you see with these kinds of models, they have a bunch of fun demonstrations of big 3D worlds with like a camera, flight through. There's a couple of components here, HY Pano 2.0 as well, which has a panorama generation component. They have World Stereo 2.0, which is a world expansion component. Yeah, I think we will be seeing more and more on this. This is like one of those things where it's really still quite janky and not advanced. So this is an area like humanoid robotics where, you know, there's still a lot of room to improve in world models and in 3D more broadly. OpenAI and Anthropic not doing 3D notably. So we are getting to a point where it's like pretty good, pretty impressive, but very far from good enough to sort of be used in real applications. And we are making pretty big jumps in quality because there is still room to improve by quite a lot.
Yeah, actually, both these papers were flagged by you, assuming that because you have more of a kind of video sort of image background, both because your work now and your previous work. I thought it was really interesting to kind of dig into something off the beaten path of like the AI agents, LLM sort of thing. So my reading of this was through the lens of scaling, super intelligence, AI agents, LLMs. So like, what does this mean for that? I guess the first observation is, so we're still in the space where, for applications other than LLMs, you generally will see a Frankenstein model kind of architecture where you don't have a single monolithic model that does all the things. Instead, it's a whole bunch of specialized models that are orchestrated together. Obviously, AI agents are more like that too, but just at the kind of model level, a lot more weight is being borne by the inductive priors, right? By how you specifically modularize and plug in all these different things in ways that reflect assumptions that you're making about the best way to solve the problem. And this, they've got 4 different stages in their pipeline here, and they do use a multimodal diffusion transformer. So it's a transformer, it's doing autoregressive, basically like sticking together the sort of like description, let's say, of the image or video.
Hey,
I was
got cut off.
Yeah, I was in the mountains. Vermont data's so shitty that as soon as I go in the mountains, it just disappears. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to the top of the mountain, you're okay, as long as nobody knows where you're at.
Yeah.
Fucking. Oh, I was just on the phone with Bob Hammond. He said, "Happy birthday."
Thank you.
To you. Yeah, he's a character. He says, "I need price." We were trying to drive his car. He's got a new Cadillac there.
Yeah.
And we're driving it back. He doesn't know how to use the GPS or the phone. And we're trying to figure out where we are. We get turned around from the hotel, which we didn't really have a room.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to come with a shuttle where you go to the hotel and it takes you to the casino.
Yep.
About 3 miles away. Well, there ain't no shuttle, and we didn't have a room to begin with. So what a freaking mess. So he says, "What do you want to do now?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Well, it's 8 o'clock at night." He said, "Why don't we just head back?"
Yeah.
So it's about a couple hours drive down there. So we just decided to hell with it. We'll just drive back. So we did. He was he gets here, hold my cell phone, and of course he's smoking a joint trying to drive, and I'm trying to hold his cigarette while fucking giving him GPS. We turned around so many times it was unbelievable. He says, "We're back at that damn hotel again." I said, "What?" I says, "Oh shit." Well, that's the part of the trip that made it worthwhile, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds like
it was
fun.
Funny. We had funny. I says, "You shouldn't be driving, and I shouldn't be instructing." He says, "Where's Bryce when we need him?" I said, "I don't know. Call him."
Yeah.
He says, "I don't know how to work this shit." I says, "Evidently." But I don't know. So we got cut off. I don't know what happened. The phone just,
Yeah, the data.
But I'm gonna check.
I went in the mountains and cut it back.
Yeah, I'm gonna check the schedule. I told Bob, I says I don't think he'll come back with me, but he said, well, if you need help, I can always come back with you. But I said, nah, that's all right. I'm just gonna go up there and see if I can't. I don't know what to do, but try to get something organized somehow. I've got that little internet thing there that came with, in the box.
Yep.
It's for okay.
Did you bring your Starlink? Yeah. Do you have a small one to bring back home with you? Or
yeah,
you do?
Yeah, I do.
Because I have one in my car. The issue is I'm not allowed to use mine past 10 miles an hour, but I use it when I go anywhere because it's great. I plug it in my car, and anytime I go somewhere, I have internet. It's awesome.
Oh, well, I got my box.
Yeah, if you bring yours with you, you should be able to plug it in and outside the camp and just leave it somewhere, and it works.
Oh.
It's kind of like what you got at, right now at your camp. It's I think it's the same size as what you have now, right? You have the mini, or do you have the regular?
Yeah, it's a mini.
Yeah, if you bring one of the minis with you, if they gave you an extra one, then you should be.
Yeah, okay.
Because I can help you set it up. All you do is plug it in and point it at the sky, and there you go.
Okay, I'll do that. We'll put it on the roof, or I don't know.
It doesn't really have to be on the roof. It can just be on the grass. Like, ours is still on the grass at our house. We haven't even put it anywhere. It's in the backyard.
Okay.
We got a 150-foot cable. We literally just put it in the backyard somewhere and left it, and we just haven't. We haven't even put it up on the house yet.
On our lake house here, where we open the door, it's up on the right. They put it on the porch.
Oh, they did.
Area, and it shoots right up in the sky. Yep. It was beautiful. I mean, I get everything. I can't fucking believe it. And all this time I had no internet. Now I got something at least.
And it's great because it doesn't use much power, and it's always there. So. Yeah.
And then they gave me the other box that I've got, which is the small one, which they said I could bring that back to Vermont if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Hook it or whatever.
If it's the same size as what you have now, yeah, you can bring that back. You should have two of them that are the same size.
If we put a log cabin on that 20 acres, I can use it over there too. That I bought, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a cool thing about them now, the minis, the small ones, which is if you have a mini, what I have, mine is $5 a month, and I'm able to watch some videos, and I can text with it and everything. It's only $5 a month. So you can have one at the log cabin with like the $5 a month, and if you only want to text or send video, do videos or something like that, it's great.
I got the full package, so includes it to use. But
yeah, because that's what we got for the house. We have one at the house.
It's $120 a month. I pay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I still got it in the box. It's still here, and if I brought it on the pontoon boat, I could still use it. You
can use it on the pontoon. Yeah. The only issue is you can't use it past 10 miles an hour. They shut you off for that. Because that's for the expensive planes, because people bring on their planes.
And then you got people tooting you because you're on the interstate and they're doing 85 and you're doing 10. Okay, I understand.
Mine works great in the city because what happens is it loads my music every time I stop.
Yeah.
So every time I hit a stop sign, it loads up everything. So in the city, mine never actually really shuts off. Because every time I hit a stop sign, it loads everything back up. So it never really cuts out. But when I'm on like the highway, I don't even use it because it doesn't.
Okay, alrighty. So all right. So I got a couple appointments, doctors this week. Next week I'll get a hold of you and let you know what I'm scheduled for flying out of here.
Yep.
When I'm gonna be out of here, I've got to check with my doctors. I'm gonna call them up and see if I can correlate the appointment so I can at least go up. I want to go up for at least 3 or 4 weeks or a month,
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah. For now, until the fall, I don't,
I mean, right now it's great. It's 70. It's like 60, 70 degrees every day.
There's no snow.
No, there's no, Grandpa. It's 70 degrees like every day.
Oh, okay. So it probably melted then.
Yeah, there's no snow. It's not like last year, April. It's 70 degrees every day. Yeah.
But that road, the camp's probably all muddy, right?
No, there's no mud. I was just up. I didn't go to your camp, but I was up right by Dog River. There's no mud, nothing.
Oh.
It's actually
okay.
dry. There's actually weather warnings for being
Well, I called
dry.
Sierra, and she sent me pictures outside her house up in Newport, Vermont, about 2 weeks ago, and she says, "Look, Grandpa, there ain't no snow." I says, "Oh, well." I said, "I don't know what house you're taking that from, but fuck it."
Yeah, but I mean, right now, like, I see the mountain right in front of me. There's not a drop of snow. It's like last night, I think it was 50 degrees last night is what the weather was. So it's not too cold.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's supposed to get up to 65, 70 today. So I mean, I had to turn the AC on, so that's how warm warm it is.
Well, you have a good birthday, Bryce.
All right. Thank you,
I got your
Grandpa.
stuff, but I wanted to give it to you when I see you. That's
of course
why.
Yeah.
So you tell Nina, I tell her I love her. She's a good girl. Don't you ever lose her.
I won't.
Stick with me. All right, because I hope everything goes through. And if anything I can do to help you guys to make it work better, to call me. Okay.
Yeah, we're on track.
You know that.
We're ahead of other people, which is good. Which is what matters. Is that if we're some of the top people that are leading the thing, so like we're ahead, which is good. It's just slow. They said government slowdowns and nobody wants to work is what we were told. So I'm gonna call them again and tell them to push it faster because that's not our problem. So.
All right. Love you, son.
I love you.
Take it easy, grandson. Bye.
Bye.
The sort of description, let's say, of the image or video they want to generate, and the noise that has to be denoised by the diffusion component. So kind of blending these two together. We've seen that before in other contexts. But then there's separate models and systems for really analyzing so they first they take an image and they stretch it out to create a panorama using one wall.
I gotta figure out why this keeps shutting off. This keeps I don't know why, but this keeps shutting off while I'm driving. I don't know if it's a micro SD card issue. I might swap my micro SD cards. I don't know if it's an SD issue or what, but it can't shut off while I'm driving. It didn't do it on the way there at all, but on the way back it did it twice so far. I think twice or 3 times. I think twice. Right now, we're using hell of energy. I mean, 4.8% more than rated. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, the Starlink is on in the back. It's not using that much power. But it just says, my climate I've saved, I have no climate on. So, my elevation, I can't do anything about that. Driving, I'm driving fucking below the speed limit, so it's not like I'm speeding through here. So, and if I go for this trip, it says I'm doing good for the trip projection. I don't know, but I think because I'm not in the city, that's why. Come on, 5% more than rated. Ugh. It says I got 86 miles left, and it says I'm here 85, so that's about right. Last 200 miles, last 10, yeah. No. Lost data again, you gotta love it.
Paths through that scene explicitly kind of chart out routes that maximize the coverage of all the spaces you can navigate, at the same time as dodging obstacles and stuff. And those paths actually come with descriptions, text descriptions to guide the next step. And so obviously the LLM, or at least a VLLM and functionalities involved there. And then from there, they're going to do this step called world expansion. And basically they take all those planned trajectories and they generate a bunch of images from key viewpoints along those trajectories. So hey, what if I look from this point perspective at this thing, and all that. And then the interesting thing is that they use an explicit memory mechanism to keep track of what's already been seen. So new frames are consistent with earlier ones. This is a really important distinction because if you remember, earlier models like this, like video generation models, would famously have these really short kind of coherence times where, for 30 seconds or so, it'd be great. Like you would look around and, you'd walk forward 3 steps, you'd look behind you, and you would see that exactly what you would just walk past. But then if you kept going, pretty soon reality would just almost literally melt in some cases. I mean, it just degraded into incoherence. And the reason was that the model couldn't remember what it had seen previously, and there was this kind of treadmilling of memory. And so, like in agents, we're seeing here a push towards this more persistent, robust kind of memory. And I would argue this falls into the continual learning category again. This is a version of that applies to the video paradigm, just in the same way that it did in the LLM paradigm. And anyway, the last step is this thing called world composition. So they take all those generated perspective shots from all of these planned routes that in the panorama, and then they feed them into a model called World Mirror 2.0. It's basically a model that predicts depth and the 3D structure from each frame, and then they stitch them together using 3D Gaussian splatting, which I have never played with. But anyway, stitching together, you may know more about this, but yeah, bottom line is the improvements here really do seem to come more from kind of data curation, architectural tweaks, memory, the bolting on of more features. So this is not a bitter lesson pilled approach. This is very much a handcrafted, that's where we still are at least in terms of open source in this problem set, which I found quite interesting.
And I think, to be fair, this has always been true to some extent with 3D, because 3D is just more awkward to represent, and the input and output format is tricky. So here, as you said, there's multiple components, and sort of qualitatively, why that is the way you're doing this is you're starting in a point in space, and then you decide where to expand to. So you're expanding a world model. And the reason to do it that way is you don't have a nice way to represent the entire world all at once. You have a nicer way to represent a view of the world and then add to it. And we may or may not have it be always true, and this is one way to do that. Actually, the next paper is another way to do that I think is more promoting. So next we have Lyra 2.0. We can say that High World 2.0 is sort of more like World Labs of Marble, where they have a 3D Gaussian splat or another kind of 3D representation, and then you sort of walk and expand the world as you go. Lyra 2.0 is more like what we saw from DeepMind. I forget the world of it, but it's essentially a playable video. And so you can be in a setting and have sort of control and see the video update in real time. So it's a world model of a different sort. There's basically 2 different types of world models you can have, where you have continual video generation, and then you can have kind of an existing static 3D world that you keep expanding. And the 2 are related but not the same, and there's various implications for architecture and sort of representational aspects that make 3D sort of just tricky. But this is also in that realm of world modeling and open source model that you can use to build that. Genie was the It's funny, we see so many models on this show, and I'm like, oh man, I'll never forget this one. And sure enough, it's interesting that these sort of similar or related solutions are coming up at the same time. I guess you generally do see that. And this is, by the way, from NVIDIA, which I think is also interesting. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, one Chinese research lab and then one obviously American one. So the 2, as I understand it, core problems that they're solving here, one of them is this whole spatial forgetting problem where we talked about it. You drift off into one direction, and then pretty soon the model kind of forgets what it's seen and starts to get inconsistent with that. This model, Lyra 2.0, fixes it with this 3D spatial memory cache. So it actually does store the geometry of every past frame separately, and then uses it to retrieve the most relevant past frames when needed. So this kind of it feels like a RAG type search to kind of pull out the physics that you want to anchor on. So it's a more grounded generation. So that's one piece. And again, we've talked about the analogy there with language models, right? Where
I don't think we did. There is an analogy to language models, right? Like, famously, in the same way that these video models will forget what they've previously generated, it used to be the case that language models, well, when given text that goes beyond their context window, right, they'll still do this. They'll forget what they had written previously, and you get this treadmilling effect that leads to incoherence over long stretches of generated text. That's much harder to spot now, obviously, because context windows are absolutely massive. But one of the solutions that is used for that is RAG, and in this case, the 3D spatial memory cache is sort of the analog to that. The other is this idea of temporal drifting. And so when you generate video autoregressively, so frame by frame, you do tend to see small errors that accumulate. So like, colors that'll shift, or like geometry that kind of starts to distort. And they fix this with what they call self-augmentation training. So during training, they're going to deliberately give the model slightly corrupted, noisy versions of its previous outputs. Instead of the actual outputs, it'll just corrupt them a bit. And that kind of forces the model to learn to correct that drift instead of propagate it. And actually, this is kind of not entirely dissimilar to what a diffusion model does philosophically. It's just playing out sort of autoregressively in this way. And so that also has a profound analog on the LLM side, where you can see goal drift or like value drift happen in a sequential like decision-making context, where you have little errors that start to compound. And the fix here, the idea of training on your own degraded outputs, is basically teaching the model robustness to that imperfection. It's kind of an interesting thing. You could imagine drawing inspiration from that for LLMs too. So yeah, all the usual things apply. This is a world model, so you can use it to train agents ultimately, like if these things get robust enough. It also, interestingly, as I understand it, learned, like, it was never explicitly trained on 3D spatial structure. It was just given 2D videos, and it generalized from those 2D videos to 3D without a specific hardline inductive prior, which is really interesting. So again, this is kind of like this thing we've seen with scaling in the past, where beyond a certain level of scale, you do see what you would previously have thought of as out of distribution generalization start to come kind of within reach. So I thought that was sort of interesting here.
Yeah, not anywhere near Genie quality, by the way. Like, the demonstrations are very short videos. They don't seem to be very interactive. It's mostly panning. So NVIDIA is not super far along here, but this is a quite rational type of space for them to invest in and have a lead in. Last interesting detail, looking at the appendix, it's built on top of 2.1 14b DIT, which is an open source generative video model from Alibaba. So this is some like cross-country sort of open source collaboration in a sense. Moving on to policy and safety, I think here starting off with more of a safety ish. I don't know how to characterize the story exactly, but one of the big stories of the week, which is that Sam Altman's home and OpenAI's headquarters were attacked. There was a Molotov cocktail thrown in front of the gates of Sam Altman's mansion in San Francisco, and then later on, this person who is accused of doing this, Daniel Moreno Galma, a 20-year-old, he tried to break into OpenAI's headquarters, I think, with a chair. So there was seemingly also a document that he had called Your Last Warning, which is quite an extreme message, as you might expect. So this was a person on the extreme front doing some extreme things. At the same week, there were also shots heard outside of Sam Altman's home. In this case, there were two people who were freed, so they are booked on suspicion of negligent discharge of a firearm, but they are not charged. So unclear what the situation is here, whether someone intentionally tried to shoot Sam Altman's home or if this was just a coincidence. But either way, I think this is one of the very early cases of violence as response to AI, as part of AI backlash, and also as part of sort of concern about AI. We've seen people demonstrating outside of the offices of OpenAI and multiple organizations. I do recall we covered targets like once. A person who had potentially violent thoughts. I think it was like Stop AI had someone who they intervened because they seemed to be considering violent things. So yeah, this obviously quite extreme, quite bad to have these kinds of things happening, and also something I could see happening more as AI has more and more radical effects on society.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, needless to say, this is an insane thing to do on a lot of levels. One of which is just like, suppose he'd succeeded, is this supposed to stop the race towards building a more powerful, like that just doesn't strike me as the outcome here. Obviously it's just, you know, somebody who's really distressed and got it in their head to do something wild. It is explicitly tied to this concern over human extinction, by the way. So there was two parts to the document that he'd written. The second part was titled "Some More Words on the Matter of Our Impending Extinction." Left and no mystery as to what the motivation was here. He did say it says to victim one's name, so really this is Sam Altman. If you make it, if by some miracle you live, then I would take this as a sign from the divine to redeem yourself. So this is like all part of this kind of manifesto that this individual wrote. I mean, look, to your point, I think exactly right. We are going to see more of this. Also, so if I'm a nation state actor looking to undermine US and broadly Western interests when it comes to AI, I would very easily decide to nudge more individuals to do this sort of thing. This is a very common motif. It's happened in environmental rights groups for forever, where when you trace back the funding, often unbeknownst to those groups, it does come from China or Russia, where they're trying to prevent critical infrastructure like pipelines or data centers from being built. It's just what you do. You always do it through proxies, and you always do it in ways that are deniable, but that's the basic idea here. So, ultimately, I expect this to be a nation state game, as weird as that sounds. The process of generating people with this kind of disposition, with this view and this willingness to act is going to be professionalized by nation states. It is just going to happen. That's, you're going to have to see super high levels of security for all the frontier AI executives. That will happen. Expect they'll have their own Pope mobiles or whatever the equivalent is. But yeah, things are going to get wild really quickly, and this is absolutely, to your point, not the last that we'll have seen of this. Unfortunately, it's just the way things go.
Right. It's pretty unambiguous, by the way, that this person did these things in a criminal complaint. There's some very high resolution surveillance camera footage of him throwing the Molotov cocktail at the gate and also going to OpenAI offices with a chair trying to break in before presumably facing a security guard. So yeah, this person did it. They had this whole write-up. They did this as in this document saying leading by example, and show that this person is fully sincere in the message of advocating for others to kill and commit crimes. So yeah, as you said, deeply related to the notion of impending extinction, but also a little bit unhinged in this, right? Like it says, addressed to victim one, if by some miracle you live, and I would take this as a sign from the divine to redeem yourself. So let's not think that like rationalists or whatever EA people are agreeing to this or anything like that. That's not the case at all. Onto another sort of weird society affecting phenomena that we have an example of that may be happening more over time. The specific example is covered in The Verge with the headline, "The Iranian Lego AI video creators credit their virality to heart." So in case you don't know, it's been a crazy time for AI-generated videos in politics over the last year or so, really starting to ratchet up under Trump's administration. They kind of post AI videos very often. And in this war with Iran that just started, there is competing propaganda going on where the White House downhill posts a lot of these ridiculous, over-the-top edits, usually with clips from video games or things like that. And then in response, the Iranian, here it looks like actually a group of about 10 Iranian content creators, Explosive Media, they've gone viral with these AI-generated Lego-style videos commenting on the US and Israel's attacks on Iran, as you might expect, generally like sort of making Iran heroic and conveying a message that they're not going to be backing down, that the US and so on are are bad. And this is coming at the same time as a couple of other things that are related. There's also a story about hundreds of fake pro-Trump avatars emerging on social media with videos of people approving of Trump. Don't know where that's from. It just is happening. And then also related, and something you may have heard about, Trump loves AI-generated images and videos. He posts and reposts them constantly. I don't know if we've covered many, but he posted photos of himself as a buff Jedi, and most recently, of course...
Oh, that was real. That one was real, though.
I don't think that's the case. And most recently, he was in an image as Jesus, healing a sick man, with the excuse of like, oh, no, I was a doctor, very clearly as the Messiah, which received a lot of backlash. But there's a long list of examples of Trump posting himself in these ways, including like sort of videos that mock his opposition. So all these things together, I think, point to the gradual escalation of the use of AI-generated media, images, and video as state propaganda, as tools of politicians, in a way that I don't think we fully expected. Sort of it has propagated and hasn't massively impacted things in a way we sort of feared that deepfakes might. But at the same time, it's hard to get a sense of what the impacts here, for instance, with these fake pro-Trump avatars generated videos on social media. Like, we got to a point of a video being so good that at the same time being so good and us being a bit cynical and used to AI generated images and video in a sense where it's just like normal.
Big age gap too, right? Because like, I mean, I've seen some older folks look at content that's obviously AI generated and go, what? Like, why would they do that? This happened to me a couple weeks back. My uncle did this thing where he just, made with Grok or whatever, made a video of me jumping out a window or something, and he sent it to one of my in-laws anyway, and they were like, why would he do that? Like, that was their first reaction. Yeah, it was a sign of the times. There's a really big gap there between the generations on that side.
Right, and in this example of the fake pro-Trump avatars, again, we don't know who did this, which is also very strange, because having hundreds of accounts making many posts is pretty expensive. And worth noting also that Trump did repost content from one of these videos, so directly affecting kind of messaging from the administration. So very weird time for the US and I guess the world stage in general, where we have Iranian Lego AI videos going viral as part of war propaganda.
And next we have what we can think of as the sort of AI alignment paper of the week, automated weak to strong researcher. So you're Anthropic, you're concerned that we're knocking on the door of superintelligence, and your entire hope at this point rests more or less on the idea that you're going to be able to pull off something called scalable oversight. So what is scalable oversight? Well, we're a bunch of dumbasses, and we're going to make machines that are smarter than us, and we're going to hope that we have the ability to meaningfully oversee and steer and control the behavior of those systems. And so, can that be done? Is there a way to do it? Is it logically possible? Well, why don't we test that by using a dumb AI model? In this case, we're going to use Qwen 1.5 0.5b, so very small, kind of small scale model, to supervise, to teach a smarter model. And in this case, that's going to be Qwen 3.4b, so a model that's more advanced in generations and also sort of 8 times bigger, so much more capable model. And we're going to see, basically, can we start with our dumb model and fine tune it on some data? So now the model is kind of like learned in a shitty way the lessons of that data, right? We take our shitty model, train it on some data, the model's learned in a shitty way the lessons of that data, and then use that shitty model to produce some shitty labels for fresh unlabeled data. Okay, so you got data now that's been given shitty labels by a weak model. Now you're going to take a strong model and train it on those shitty labels and that data that you just shittily label. Can you get that stronger model trained on those shitty labels to perform as well as that stronger model would have performed if it was trained on ground truth labels, like the actual correct answers. That's the core question at the heart of scalable oversight, or at least this is one way to formalize it. And that's the experiment they're going to run here. There's this metric that I think Leopold Aschenbrenner sort of started kind of pushing down the direction of this particular metric. It's the performance gap recovered. So a 0 score on this metric means that the strong model recovers the same performance, the same accuracy in generating its labels as the shitty weak model. So basically, it's just kind of memorizing whatever shitty process the weaker model used. That's a 0. A 1 is if the strong model recovers the same performance as it would have if it was trained on ground truth labels. Now, if it sounds impossible to you that this could work, I'm sympathetic. To me, is actually very unclear. This sounds like it could actually just be straight up impossible. The hope, logically, is that the stronger model has been trained on so much data, has so much scale, that it can actually kind of see the gist of what the shitty model was trying to get at with its labels, and then generalize better than the shitty model could during training. That's the hope here.